Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today we're going to continue to rediscover the Christmas spirit with Charles Dickens's short novel entitled A Christmas Carol. I was always kind of confused by this particular title when I was a kid because there's actually no singing in this story. Why do they call it a Christmas song when it's just a bunch of words describing a bunch of action involving Ebenezer Scrooge and Bob Cratchit and Marley and all those people? A Christmas Carol, of course, is a lot more fun. It's a song that we sing during Christmas, like Jingle Bells, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Ah, come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. These are all Christmas songs, Christmas carols. But yes, this is actually a story by Charles Dickens, and we've been talking about it in our program so far.
I wondered if maybe the origin of this word, it's something like a story or something.
Could be.
But actually, it stands for a ring of stones, a circle of stones.
Oh, it does.
A place for study. So that doesn't really work. But anyway, he chose to call it a Christmas carol. They do sing at the party, I believe. But it's not a musical, let's say that. It's just a novella, a short story. It's about usually over 100 pages, a novella. But it's really wonderful. And if you get one that has the original illustrations, you'll find it really charming.
You can probably find it online somewhere. Maybe Project Gutenberg has a copy of it that you can download with the illustrations. But we're summarizing the story so far. So we've got Ebenezer Scrooge. He's a miserly old man, and he still runs a company that has the name of himself and his former partner, who's been dead for 7 years. He only has one employee by the name of Bob Cratchit, but Scrooge, of course, is mean to him and doesn't pay him very much. Well, now it's Christmas Eve. It's bitterly cold. He keeps the office cold, and they have to shiver while they're working. And later on, Scrooge is visited by Marley's ghost, and then Marley says, hey, you're going to be visited by 3 different ghosts tonight. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the one of the future. And that's where we left off. So let's find out what happens next in our story. Let's listen to the entirety of today's lesson, and we'll come back to talk about it. True to Marley's warning, the ghost of Christmas past visits Scrooge that night. This spirit transports him back to the joyful Christmases of his youth, including a festive party hosted by his generous former employer. These scenes of long-forgotten joy remind Scrooge of the kindness he once exhibited and stir feelings of guilt for his mistreatment of Cratchit. Additionally, he observes that his obsession with wealth caused the breakup with his fiancée, leading him to bitterness and isolation. Next, the ghost of Christmas present reveals to Scrooge the current joys and struggles of those around him. He sees the Cratchit family's modest celebration. Despite their poverty, the family gathers with love and warmth around their fragile son, Tiny Tim. Scrooge's heart softens as he witnesses their contentment in the face of hardship. He also sees Fred's Christmas party, where mockery of Scrooge's stinginess leads him to reflect deeply on his attitude. The final visitor, the ghost of Christmas yet to come, descends upon Scrooge in darkness. This silent spirit shows Scrooge a bleak future in which he has died. No one mourns his passing. Instead, people celebrate and steal his possessions. Scrooge also sees the Cratchit family grieving for Tiny Tim, who has passed away. Horrified by these projections, Scrooge vows to amend his ways and honor Christmas forever. When Scrooge awakens on Christmas morning, he is overjoyed to find he has the opportunity to change. He sends a large turkey to the Cratchit household, donates to charity, and joyfully attends Fred's Christmas dinner gathering. From that day forward, he reconnects with the compassionate side of his younger self, and society warmly embraces his renewed generosity.
Okay, guys, let's dive in. This is day 2, and we're continuing on with the plot. So we know that he has experienced a visit from his old partner, Marley, who has warned him, oh, this isn't over. You've got 3 ghosts who are going to be coming to visit you, as Tom said. Before we listened to day 2 read through, They are ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. And they each have special messages for Mr. Scrooge. They're going to try to save him from being condemned to endlessly wandering after he dies because he's been such a bad person while he was alive. So here in the first paragraph, it says, true to Marley's warning, which means it happened exactly as Marley said. The ghost of Christmas past visits Scrooge that night. He's the first ghost who comes to see him, although Marley also counts as a ghost, right? But these ghosts have particular names, and it's important to learn the names. So this spirit, this ghost, transports him back to the joyful Christmases of his youth. When Scrooge was a young guy, remember, he's an old man now. I think he's had a sad life. He doesn't have a family. We're going to find out he broke up with his fiancée. He never got married. It's hard to be alone. So he is transported back to when he was young and life was so good and there was a lot of hope for Scrooge and he was happy. And he sees this festive party as he's transported back to the past. It's hosted by his generous former employer. So when Scrooge was young, he actually had a boss who was very generous, the opposite of being stingy and miserly. So this is what he sees. Now, Tom, if you call something festive, what does that mean?
Oh, it's joyful, it's active, it's a happy situation. So, of course, this is a party that is very festive. People are having a great time. They're singing songs. They're enjoying good food. They are enjoying each other's company.
They dressed up, perhaps?
Indeed. They could be dressed up as well. Everybody's just having a really great time. And again, this party was hosted by Scrooge's former employer, who was very generous at the time. And these scenes of long-forgotten joy remind Scrooge of the kindness he once exhibited and stir feelings of guilt for his mistreatment of Cratchit. Okay, so he sees what's going on here and he learns something from this scene. He remembers, yes, at one time I was actually a nice guy. I was actually kind. I was generous. And now I feel kind of guilty because, hey, my former employer treated me pretty well, but I treat my employee pretty badly. So, yeah, I feel kind of guilty about that.
Yeah, so if you exhibit something, you demonstrate that, you show it. So he once exhibited actually kindness to people and those around him. And because he's seen these scenes of long forgotten joy, scenes he had actually forgotten, they're so long ago and he's been so mean for so long, he starts to feel guilty, as Tom said, because he's been mistreating old Cratchit. He keeps Cratchit cold all day long. He also doesn't pay him very much. Remember, he paid Cratchit a meager wage. So additionally, it says he observes or notices that his obsession with wealth caused the breakup with his fiancée, leading him to bitterness and isolation. So I think this sentence here kind of gives us an explanation, perhaps, of why Scrooge has turned so bitter and unhappy. So he focused way too much on money. So if you have an obsession, it means that's what you think about, talk about, and actually go and do all day long, whatever you're obsessed with. You might be obsessed with a hobby, or maybe you like a movie star and you try to find all the news you can about that person. Well, he was obsessed with wealth, making money, and at the time he was actually engaged. Fiancé, of course, this spelling means it's the female. The spelling for the male takes off that last E. You can say fiancé or fiancée. They're both correct. You choose what you want to use there.
I tend to say fiancé myself.
Okay, and fiancé, they're both great. And she left, which probably broke his heart. But, remember, he was focused too much on making money, and people want to be, they want to be paid attention to. They want to be loved. And so because of this, it led him to be very bitter If you're bitter, you don't see any happiness or any meaning around you, no hope. And it also led to his isolation. What's that, Tom?
Isolation means you're isolated, you're separated from the rest of society. In this particular case, he had a broken heart and he thought, well, I don't want to be hurt again. So the best way to prevent being hurt again is to stay away from people. So he became isolated. And again, he focused on his money and on his wealth so that he wouldn't have to think too much about his broken heart. Yes, this is a good lesson, guys, out there. Of course, girls do like guys who are, pretty career-oriented and do want to make money, but you can't go overboard with it because then you only think about the money and you don't think about the relationship, so that could cause a breakup. You'll no longer be together, and in this particular case, Scrooge had a broken heart, and that's why he became so cold and bitter. Now, moving on to the next paragraph here, it says, Next, the ghost of Christmas present reveals to Scrooge the current joys and struggles of those around him. So again, this is a new ghost coming to visit him. First of all, he was visited by the ghost of Christmas past, and now it's the ghost of Christmas present, which is Christmas going on right now. And he reveals or shows Scrooge the current joys and the current struggles of those around him. So yes, mostly people are happy during Christmas, but some people are having problems during Christmas. I understand that for a lot of people, Christmas can be a very depressing time of year because they're not together with family or whatever. So there are very happy people during Christmas, but there are some sad people as well.
Oh, there sure are. Well, he is shown Cratchit family, the Cratchit family, I should say. They're having a modest celebration. Modest here just means it's not very big, it's not expensive. Remember, Bob Cratchit, who works for Scrooge, doesn't make very much money. But there's a big contrast here between how much they make or how little they make and how much joy they have despite their poverty. Poverty meaning they really don't have any money. The family gathers with love and warmth around their fragile son. His name is Tiny Tim. I think Tiny Tim was born disabled. I think he had a hard time walking, if I recall.
Yeah, he has a crutch.
Yeah. So he's all of these characters are very famous for those of us who grew up in the West, right?
Exactly.
So we know all these people.
And Tiny Tim, of course, went on later to become a very famous hippie singer. He sang the song Tiptoe Through the Tulips. I'm joking, of course, but there was a guy named Tiny Tim at one point. I think he just borrowed this name from the Dickens character. But again, this is what is happening with the Cratchit family. They have a nice, warm celebration together, but their son is kind of fragile. And we'll find out what happens next in a couple of seconds. But right now, we're going to take a break. But stay tuned. We'll be right back.
好，所以我们昨天看到啦 ，Scrooge 居然看到玛丽的幽灵来找他。哦，原来玛丽现在过得很不好诶，一直不断的在那边徘徊，在后悔当中，后悔之前实在是太 stingy 了，实在是太小气了。故事怎么发展？第一段，其实正如玛丽的警告，因为真的有鬼来找 Scrooge。首先，过往的圣诞幽灵在那一晚就拜访了 Scrooge。我们来看一下第一段第一句的地方，中间 The ghost of Christmas past。他来了之后做什么用啊？第二句，这个精灵啊 ，spirit 这个鬼啊 ，spirit 其实就有灵的意思啊，就是鬼的意思。当然，鬼这个 ghost 就是我们觉得很害怕，但是 spirit 特别指的就是非人类啊，灵这个概念。好，那这个灵呢，就带他回到了他之前年轻欢乐的圣诞节。那当时他之前前雇主就非常的慷慨啊，都会办一些什么节日派对之类的。那在第二句的地方，我们看到关系子句的简化哦。先行词是 a festive party， 简化的关系子句从 hosted 到句尾的地方，省略的是会举或 that 跟 be 动词的 was。那第三句也要特别注意，第三句啊，它这边的意思是说，当然当时那些被遗忘的欢乐场景啊，那 Scrooge 就想起他之前其实是很善良，然后他突然想起来他对这个 Cratchit 就是他唯一的雇员，他雇的人好像对他真的太不好了，他觉得有点愧疚。接下来第一段的这个第三句，我们特别注意一下，也是有先定用法的关系子句，不过呢，冠带就省略了。先行词是什么呢？先行词是 the kindness。那关系子句从 he 一直到这个 and 前面的 exhibited 这个地方只有3个字，但是关带的 which 或 that 省略，为什么呢？因为在括号里面，关带 which 或 that 也就是 kindness 是 exhibit 展示展现这个动作的受词，所以在括号里面如果关带当受词就可以不用写，直接省略掉。好，那接下来就来到了后面啊，文章啊，他就讲说他这个同时呢，此外他也看到自己对财富的一种执着，他就看到了他过去啊，就是因为他太执着于钱了，导致他跟他未婚妻分手，所以他才会陷入一些苦涩啊、痛苦啊、孤立当中。所以第一段的第4句也是很重要，因为后面我们看到的 The break up with his fiancée， 这刚刚提到的这5个单字就是逗点之后 leading blah 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 leading 这个非限定用法关系子句补充说明关系子句的简化，所以我们把 leading 先还原 which leads， 什么事情导致他现在这么痛苦呢？ which 指的是逗点前面的 the break up 分手，跟未婚妻分手这件事。好，那接着呢我们就来到了第2段啦。第2段一定就是现在的圣诞节幽灵，那现在这个圣诞节其实还没到，但是即将来到咯。那现在的 The Ghost of Christmas Present 就跟 Scrooge 啊把它带到了整个周围啊，大家的欢乐啊跟挣扎当中，因为他看到他的雇员 Cratchit 一家很简朴的庆祝活动，可是他们这家人虽然很贫穷，却依然环绕着他们虚弱生病的小儿子 Tiny Tim， 而且他们家充满着爱，充满着温暖。我们来看一下这边呢，第2段的第3句最前面的 Despite their poverty， Despite 可以特别圈起来，因为它是一个介系词，所以介系词后面就只能够加名詞。不过尽管的这个介系词我们也可以换成 in spite of 3个字哦， INSPITE-OF。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Let's continue with our lesson. Again, where we left off, Ebenezer Scrooge is being visited by the ghost of Christmas Present. This is the second ghost to visit him on Christmas Eve. And again, he reluctantly gave Bob Cratchit the night off, so he's able to see what's going on with the Cratchit family. He sees that even though they're very poor, they're still having a great time together. And their son is kind of fragile, he's kind of weak, maybe a little sick, and his name is Tiny Tim. Now, Scrooge's heart softens as he witnesses their contentment in the face of hardship. So he's starting to melt here. His heart of stone is starting to get softer here, and he witnesses their contentment when they're facing hardship. Okay, so his heart softens because he sees or witnesses that they are actually very content despite the fact that they're very poor and their son is kind of sick. That's what hardship is. They're just having a difficult life. They're having difficulty paying their bills. Maybe the house is cold during the winter because they can't afford heating. Yes, they are suffering hardship.
Now, if you witness something, we use this to talk about someone who sees something with their own eyes. If you go to court and you're a witness, that means you testify on behalf of the government, or maybe there are two people who are suing each other. Maybe you saw a traffic accident and you're a witness who's been called to tell what you saw. Here, he sees the happiness in face of all of this family's hardship. Hardship, just so you know, is countable and non-count both. So you could say in the face of hardship or in the face of a lot of hardships. You could say that too, but hardship is both. And you can pick what you want to use. He also sees Fred's Christmas party, where mockery of Scrooge's stinginess leads him to reflect deeply on his attitude. So remember, Fred's his nephew. He has a separate party. He's not at the Cratchit house. And he's making fun of his uncle's stinginess. And all of this leads Scrooge to reflect on himself, to think deeply about what he's been doing and his attitude.
Yeah, what do people think of me? They must think I'm a real stingy person. Of course, you can see the Christmas party and they're mocking him. Yes, bah humbug, Christmas is a big waste of time. They're kind of copying him, they're mocking him. And so he realizes that, I'm a laughingstock. Maybe I should change my ways. Now, then we have the final visitor, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. When I was in school, we just shortened this to the ghost of Christmas future, what's going to happen in the future. But in the original book, it's called the ghost of Christmas yet to come, the Christmas that has not come yet. He descends upon Scrooge in darkness. He comes upon Scrooge, but it's dark now, it's at night. And this spirit is silent. It's not saying anything. This silent spirit shows Scrooge a bleak future in which he has died. If something's bleak, of course, it's just lacking in any kind of life. Nothing really good is going to happen. It's a bleak future. You might have a bleak future, for example, if you don't work hard or if you don't study hard and you're lazy and you gamble all the time. Yeah, your future is going to be very bleak.
Or we'll use bleak to talk about a really bad weather day. When you go outside, there's no sun, it's cold, nobody wants to be outside. It's probably raining if you're here in Taiwan. Bleak. Bleak just means there's no possible happiness or hope attached to this. So no one mourns his passing. So they're kind of at his funeral. I guess he's died and no one cares that he's passed away. Would you mourn his passing? If you mourn someone's passing, you talk about them, you might cry, you might share stories about them. People who die and don't have any friends, no one really pays attention. Instead, people celebrate that he's gone. Well, that's not good either. And they steal his possessions. Your possessions are things that you own. We have a lot of different possessions. You could possess a house, you could possess a car, things like that. But they steal what they can find of his things. Scrooge also sees the Cratchit family grieving for Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim has passed away in this ghost of Christmas yet to come. So that poor little boy who was handicapped has passed away. If you're grieving, of course, you're really upset about the passing of someone. And don't use grieve unless you're really talking about death. It usually has to be associated with the death of someone close to you.
That's right. It's similar in meaning to mourning, but again, they're grieving for Tiny Tim. They're very sad that Tiny Tim has passed away. He has died. He is no longer living. And horrified by these projections, Scrooge vows to amend his ways and honor Christmas forever. So he sees what's going to happen to him in the future. No one is going to mourn me. I'm just going to die all by myself. That's very depressing. It's very bleak. So he's horrified. He's really scared by these projections. Here we've got a projection. That just means something that is going to show you the future. It often refers to something that is shining on the wall because you have a machine that shines an image on the wall. That machine is called a projector, and then the image on the wall is the projection. So here he's horrified by these predictions of the future. So he promises, he vows to amend his ways. He's going to fix his ways. He's going to turn over a new leaf. He's going to become a new man, and he's going to honor Christmas forever. He's going to be totally a different man.
If you work in business, guys, you'll use projection to talk about what you see in the future. So maybe you have a meeting and you talk about the first quarter projection of projections. I should put an S on that. For profit, what do you think you're going to make in sales and how much you're going to have to spend? Those are projections. They're not just guesses out of the air. You usually have some information at hand, but then you're making a calculated guess. So that's a projection here. And as Tom said, he vows to amend. Vow is a serious promise. It's much more serious than saying, yeah, I promise I'll do it. Sure, whatever. No, if you make a vow, it's like something like a marriage vow to always take care of your spouse and be faithful. Those are serious promises. And to amend something means you change it. Usually, you change something to make it better. We amend a document, or if you have a piece of legislation, you can amend that legislation or maybe pass an amendment, which is the noun form of that. So he vows, very seriously promises, to change his ways, and he's going to honor Christmas forever. And that all happens that one night.
Interesting. Maybe we could all be visited by various spirits to teach us various lessons and to change our lives forever. But here in the final paragraph it says, when Scrooge awakens on Christmas morning, he is overjoyed to find he has the opportunity to change. So, of course, the last spirit that he saw showed him his grave. The ghost showed him that he had actually died. So when he wakes up on Christmas morning, he is overjoyed. He is grateful that he is actually still alive and that he has been given a second chance. He has an opportunity to change. He doesn't want to be that old miser that he was in the past. He wants to be a brand new man.
So he sends a large turkey to the Cratchit household. Then he donates to charity. And he also joyfully attends Fred's Christmas dinner gathering. So he did all of these things. I bet he shocked Fred by showing up to his Christmas party. From that day forward, he reconnects with the compassionate side of his younger self. So, yeah, it had been so long since he'd felt any joy or compassion or love for other people that he kind of has to reconnect, catch up with what he used to feel as a younger person when life had a lot of hope in it for him. And society warmly embraces his renewed or restored, you could say, generosity. If you're generous, you help other people. You are very giving with your time, with your money, with things that you have to help other people. You're not selfish.
Right, that's what generous means here. Generosity is the noun form. That's when you're kind and generous. You could say, for example, oh, thank you for your generosity if somebody does something nice for you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
那当 Scrooge 亲眼目睹他们在面对这种穷困困境，但是还是却很满足的时候，他的心突然就变得很柔软了。好，我们来看这个第二段的第四句。第四句当中提到的这个满足contentment， C-O-N-T-E-N-T， content， 如果念 content 就表示满足。满足的意思就是说我有的东西我很珍惜这个概念，而不是说我拥有很多。那这形容词加 ment 就会变成名词，就是所谓的满意满足这种状态。那接着呢，他又看到了 Fred 的圣诞派对，然后在 party 上面大家就对于 Scrooge 很吝啬就嘲笑他，他开始就会反省自己了。接下来同样一样看到第二段第五句这个地方，第五句要特别先把前面逗点之前的 Fred's Christmas Party 画起来，逗点之后的 where 到句尾我们特别刮一下，因为这里的关代不是代名词，是关副，是 where 指的是 in which， 那 which 是什么呢？就是逗点前面的 party， 言下之意这里的 where 就是 and in the party， 而在这个 party 当中，那副词后面一定会加完整子句嘛，所以你会看到从 mockery 一直到句尾的地方，主词、动词、受词什么都不缺。那最后到了最后一个访客，也就是我们第三段的地方，未来的幽灵 The ghost of Christmas yet to come 就来了。那未来到底会发生什么事呢？这个幽灵向 Scrooge 展示他自己死后的暗淡未来。什么状况？根本没有人哀悼他，大家还庆祝然后把他的财物都偷走。然后他看到 Tiny Tim 居然已经过世了，就他被吓到，他就发誓要改过自新。好，我们来看一下第三段，特别注意一下第五句的地方。第五句的 horrified 是分词构句也就是说其实句子本来有两个句子，逗点前面说完整应该是 because he is horrified， 因为他被这些东西吓到，逗点 Scrooge 就发誓要自新。那这个 Scrooge 其实就是我们刚刚说的 because he 是谁？所以我们之前曾经说过，如果莫名其妙看到 ing 啦或者是 pp 啦，主词一定是逗点之后的那个主词，也就是分词构句。所以最后当 Scrooge 在圣诞节早上醒来的时候，他发现好险圣诞节还没过，他就做了很多好事，他重新展现了他的慷慨。我们明天会针对这个故事多做一些探讨我是安娜，我们明天见。
That's it for today, everybody. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll have a very joyous Christmas Eve and a happy Christmas tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow is Christmas Day, and in tomorrow's program, we're going to continue talking about A Christmas Carol. We're going to talk about some of the themes and ideas in this book, so please join us then, and also check out our content on Facebook and YouTube. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.